Well, we've lived here in Central Texas for 10 years, and I thought as a milestone, it would be nice to show what our yard looks like. This is May 1st, 2025. 10 years ago, this was all turf when I moved in. There have been a lot of battles with the HOA, but I thought I'd do a little tour of what the yard looks like now, 10 years later. So I've had several iterations of this front area, some of which gotten me into trouble, so I'm keeping it a little more under control. And it's spring right now, and you can see the desert willow is showing its beautiful catalpa flowers. These blue agaves are reproducing like crazy. The Gregg's mist flower here, of course, butterfly crack, is going to be swarming with queens and other butterflies soon. My little lace cactus, unfortunately, can't see it now, but they bloomed recently with their beautiful pink flowers. So let's just do a little walkabout, starting with the front. This is the sunny side of the yard, and this is the only place I can have full sun plants. So I'm not going to name everything, but I'm going to show some of them. You can see that I'm still politically active. This is a member, a person running for city council here. My agarita has nice berries on it right now, which are tasty and which the birds will like. Everything in my front yard is pretty much deer resistant unless it's caged. I have to cage all the trees to keep the trunks protected, but it's a constant battle dealing with the deer here. So I've created these walkways and a whole terracing kind of situation. You see we've got the patio steps with the flagstone, beds, walkways. These blue curls come in early. I'll have to rip them out soon to make room for all the other stuff. But you can see some of these things in pots have to come into the garage. My flame leaf sumac has been too successful. It grew so much that it lost most of some of its largest branches, but you can see that it's come back just fine. I have to put cages around this whale's tongue agave during the deer rutting season from September to January, or they will destroy the plant, rubbing the edges, which serrations, to get the velvet off their antlers. Heartleaf skullcap here is a beautiful ground cover. It's just starting to bloom now. It'll start to look pretty bad by July, in which case I'll rip out much of it. It will grow back, and I'll let the sprouts, the water sprouts of all the little oak suckers from our stressed tree here fill in as a ground cover, so it will look intentional, and I'll keep them trimmed to a certain height so that I won't get busted for having an ugly front bed. This is skeleton leaf goldeneye, and it is a wonderful West Texas plant that's almost evergreen, and I love it. Here, this is an area where I wanted to show that other ground covers were possible, so I filled it in with woolly stomodia, which sometimes fills in entirely. You can see that things are looking a little bit wet right now. We fortunately had a pretty intense hour or two of rain last night. You can see that our rain gauge is filled to about an inch. This is my second front pollinator garden. You'll notice that I've got mist flower, fragrant mist flower, flame acanthus, heartleaf skullcap. These little labels really help me remember everything. I was cited for having those, but I got special permission. I had to apply for a permit to be able to have those in my yard. I just recently planted these indigo spires, which is a great, beautiful, colorful salvia hybrid. There's my little resistance candle that goes off for 4 hours a night in the window. until we get out of this horrid Trump second era, if we survive it. But my garden is my little sanctuary where I can escape, and I need to be out in it every day. So this is my big weeping yaupon, which towers and which I love. This is the dwarf yaupon that has kind of formed a hedge in front here. It's several plants. And this is Eileen's porch project, which I have supported, and this is her entire contribution to the yard. But she has a very good aesthetic sense, and you can see that I've replaced a number of the plants, put a lot of work into refinishing this little wicker chair. Can't tell you how many coats of paint are on that thing. But anyway, let's move on around. By the way, I've utilized my rock collections over time. You can't hardly even see many of them anymore. This is the turtle rock that followed me around since my father and I collected it when I was just a little tyke. Whale vertebrae from my marine biology days. Some really cool plants and rocks. I picked up this famous rock that's about 2 billion years old in Nevada with stromatolites in it. No time to talk about what those are. Let's move around to the side yard. I know this is getting rather lengthy, but again, preserving it for posterity. I guess I could edit it later. Here is still the front bed, and as we move around to the side area, to the east side of the house, experiments. My oak leaf hydrangea looks like it's going to bloom again. I'm glad it survived. This is a little pomegranate tree I planted, and I think it's going to make it. Recently mulch mowed the leaves back into the turf, so I am keeping some turf, and the neighbors do all kinds of stuff with theirs, with all kinds of lawn services and fertilizers and aeration and weed abatement and all of that stuff, and I don't do anything with mine other than mulch mow it, occasionally maybe add a little compost, and it's doing just fine. This little bur oak hopefully will someday grow. It was given to me as part of an Arbor Day thing, and it was tall and skinny and root bound, so it's going to take a while to adapt, but I'm hoping that it grows and becomes one of my larger trees. Over here, this isn't native, but it's Jackman clematis, and I put it here just because it's pretty. So we've got lots and lots of volunteer plants like these American beauty berries are popping up everywhere. I'm using this fragrant mist flower quite a bit. It's really good for butterflies and pollinators. I may live to regret letting some of this tall goldenrod grow here, because it became a problem in the front. I got cited because it was looking messy, but it's one of the world's best pollinator plants. My Mexican buckeye tree is one of my fastest growing understory trees, and it's doing just fine. So this is a real success story over here. This is a bed full of frostweed, inland sea oats, which you can see here, and other things in here include beautyberry and Turk's cap and tropical salvia. What this originally was all dirt when rain used to drain through this area, and there were just dirt and roots, and I restored it. One of the things we did was create a barrier up the far end of the yard to keep the water from coming through, but also I planted, starting with the inland sea oats and other things, and they started trapping soil and creating this beautiful bed that's going to be full of pollinators. Got cited for it because I did it before I asked permission, so this was one of many things that created issues for me. Now I'm a little smarter, but I'm off the radar, I think, a little bit more than I used to be. So back in here, I used to have my rain barrels back here. You can see I've got my composter fairly well hidden back in there. Had to get rid of it when I first moved in, but the rules have changed. I've been fighting to change the rules since I've been here. Here's Virginia creeper climbing up my tree. It's very much encouraged to do that. We'll get some nice fall color out of it. You can see these large oaks. I've got mostly live oaks, but there's post oaks. There's also cedar elm and a few other large trees in the yard that give us a lot more shade than most people have, and I refuse to trim them any more than is necessary, and that's why I think my yard is so nice. The habitat here is recovering. Just this morning I'm hearing summer tanagers, and I heard a red-eyed vireo singing a little while ago. So I'm going to come through into the backyard. This area, again, because of water that would drain down and create pretty much a river throughout this entire area, all the way down to the creek down way there in the back. Well, diverting the water around from the yard above has really helped stabilize this area. But I was cited for bare spots here, but you can see I've been using horse herb to fill that in, and it's working really well as a ground cover on this side. On this side, I've been using lyre leaf salvia, and that's working well also. And I've been planting coralberry and a bunch of other things. These little saw palmetto, dwarf palmettos. I've got frostweed popping up everywhere. I'm just going to let it. Planted a little whale's tongue agave there a couple days ago. We'll see what it does. This is the area where the dogs like to run back and forth against the fence with the neighbors' dogs. And years ago I planted all of these native trees here, understory trees. They're all doing exceptionally well and creating a visual screen, which is what I was really intending. This was expensive, this walkway, but the guy I used to work with put it in at great cost, and there were some problems, but it's working out really nicely. So the backyard is a whole big improvement over what it was. Too bad this Texas star hibiscus isn't blooming right now, because it's going to have big, beautiful red flowers. And I've been experimenting with various plants like this American germander, which a lot of these plants now will take over if I don't manage them. They spread like crazy. I don't know if you can hear that summer tanager in the background. Yesterday there was yellow-breasted chat in the yard too. Here is a little bit of spiderwort with my flamingo, and what you can't see is the oyster mushroom patch that I harvested and that we made into vegan carnitas the other day that I tossed into here. But I'm going to walk around. I created this walkway using flagstones. We wanted to have an area, or some areas, where the dogs could run around in the back. It's been very difficult to protect these beds for birds, like this fall obedient bed, fall obedient plant bed, and these other beds. But the dogs love to get in there, as do raccoons and other things. But hopefully I've managed to protect them enough that there's some habitat for the birds that the dogs can't reach inside these areas. So I've got this intermediate bed in the middle of the yard. I've created layers of screening, visual screening, and this is my There's some spider lilies that I hope bloom soon. And then this coral honeysuckle is forming a visual screen to protect us from viewing while we're in our little spool there, and also to attract hummingbirds. And this is my bird observation area where I have the camera and various feeders, largely for the benefit of raccoons, but doing the best I can to discourage them. We'll continue the tour around the yard, and you can see that much of this area is filling in. The area where the turf won't grow is filling in with horse herb, sedges like this woodland sedge, and unfortunately some other plants like this lovely Drummond's aster, unfortunately, is Drummond's disaster, because it really likes to take over everywhere, and it's become kind of a weed issue in a lot of places, but things could be worse. One of my favorite plants, Carolina buckthorn, brought in these benches. Arroyo sweetwood. I had to cut many of these trees back when I applied for my new beds in order to not be fined, cited, reprimanded, excluded from amenities and so on by the Covenants Committee. And so a lot of these things got cut back. Now they're growing back, and hopefully I'll get left alone. And you can see that I've created some visual floral barriers from the neighbors, so that we can have some privacy in our backyard with these lovely benches. This one I found on the curb, and semi-restored it into a weathered state. Fire ants were under here. That's what those are about, controlling them. And I'm letting a lot of things that pop up grow, like these mescadine and Mustang grapes, which most people would rip out. You can see that little grapelets are forming. And I'm going to continue the tour around through our 4/10 acre yard. I did want to share a couple of other things. These were tiles that a student made for me a long time ago at Chadwick for my grandparents and dogs. And then this is Alamo vine. I created a couple of pots from some whale's tongue agaves I dug up, so I have a few of them growing around here. This is getting to be a long video, but I just kind of wanted to share the beds while everything is green and wet and happy. Snapdragon vine. This little pomegranate tree suffered. Oh God, the mosquitoes are so bad. And I've got some pots around the spool. You can see the lace cactus and silver ponyfoot. Here's our little spool, which has cost me a fortune to keep happy and healthy and maintained. Looks like I need a little more work on it. I might shock it today. And then I've got some prairie cone flowers in some pots. And then our little, a little bed next to the pool, and you can see how the hard to remember all these names. Virginia creeper is just really working its way up this tree. Oh, I hear some of our breeding robins singing now too. So let's continue the tour around. I didn't put mosquito repellent on all parts of me, so now I'm getting bit in every place I don't have mosquito repellent, even though I have a long sleeve shirt and long pants on. So this is the west side area. You can see this lovely Monterey oak, also called Mexican white oak. That is the tree I'm using for many clients now. It's very resistant to oak wilt, and it makes a really good shade tree. A lot of these are volunteer yopons that I have just protected from deer by caging them and allow them to grow. I'll take those cages off, or at least cinch them tightly soon. This is our big old oak tree. I think it's at least 300 years old, and it's a star member of our botanical cast here. I have this area here with a little bee box that I need to work on and maintain. My favorite plant, this Mexican buckeye, has already bloomed, and so I wish I had filmed it sooner. These beautiful red flower spikes that early hummingbirds like. But alas, can't do it all. And replacing this Japanese holly with other things, succulents, Greg's Mist, cactuses, agaves, because it has not done well over the years. This is soap tree, which I hope I'm allowed to keep here. Look at all these little frost weeds that I dig up and give to other people. And then there's some recent compost I created to fill in the holes where I dig up the frost weed. Here's another bed. The neighbors in the back. My colleague Oscar put this in for me, this little area that with some gravel and pavers and a bench. We picked these benches up at a garage sale a long time ago. And then I've got this little bed back here with my wafer ash, which I love, but which deer also love, so I've doubly protected it. And these beds are full of sedge, Weberville sedge or whatever, cedar sedge, whatever comes up naturally here. It's all started as one plant, and I've let it spread, and I call these beds sedgeries because they're just full of sedges, which I can then transplant and offer to other people. So let's continue around on the west side of the house. Lots of frostweed. I've pretty much decided that I'm going to let stuff grow that wants to grow, and it's going to be better for wildlife. I've protected this twist leaf yucca bloom as well as I can from deer, so they don't eat the top off of it. This dwarf palmetto is really happy here too. So I'm discovering evergreen shade plants, which is a real challenge here, things that will grow under oak trees. False indigo is one of my favorites. And then this giant tree took me years to identify. It's called a gum bumelia, and no one that I've spoken with has ever seen one that big. Oh, in the distance in the tree you can see my screech owl box. I've got bird boxes all around. I just created this one, and some chickadees hopefully fledged. Hopefully snakes didn't get them. I have a camera in this one, and but that baffle I hope is working to keep critters out. So moving around, trying to keep this turf alive until someday when maybe I don't have to have turf anymore back here. I almost let it die, so I've been mulch mowing and adding compost to try to bring this area back, and I reestablished the irrigation that I'd shut off for a while. So moving around here to our AC supply, and to some nice Carolina cherry laurels. Well, one nice one. The deer destroyed this one. Oh, there's a squirrel working his way up. My volunteer hackberry tree, which hackberry is another plant that people hate. Anyway, I planted Texas wisteria on this dead tree that the deer destroyed, hoping that the wisteria would be green and look like there's still life, so I wouldn't have to cut down the tree. Unfortunately, the wisteria is growing up way up there in the sun and isn't growing down low, so I'm going to have to find some low vine or something else to conceal this until it eventually rots away so that it can serve as habitat in the meantime. And I've been planting, distributing these little lace cactus all around the yard as much as possible, because Charlie has been rescuing them for me, and they would have been otherwise destroyed, and it's one of the few native cactuses that can handle the really tough conditions here. So when Betty and Ken moved in, they agreed to go in half with me to create this rocky area that drains the entire yard. So all the water that used to rush down through my patio and put mud piles there and wash out all my soil and create bare spots, we elevated between Charles's yard and mine, and the water comes rushing down through here now, and we created kind of a channel for it, but it isn't apparently washing away the turf here, and it runs down and drains out through the front down to here, and only water escapes, so my yard stays intact. The squirrel just won't go away. So this is an area that again used to be turf. We put down rocks here, and then these are sun-loving. Well, the yarrow is actually growing in shade, but I've had some really good luck with Mexican mint marigold, Damianita, Blackfoot daisy. I even have an antelope horn milkweed here, and it's making an antelope horn, which would be a seed pod full of, making a couple of them. Hopefully those seeds will drift and find a place to grow, since this is the best monarch plant. This Gulf Coast muley is beautiful in fall, and it's already sending up some new seed head spikes. Blackfoot daisy, and I should have filmed this Damianita while it was still at its prime. It's incredible yellow, but it will bloom again in fall. So that's it. That's a tour of the yard. This is an exceptionally long video. I don't know where I'm going to put it or how I'm going to save it, but I will make that effort. Signing out.